For example, the plan, reduce the world population by 90%. Here we have the Global 2000 report, 1980 report commissioned by President Jimmy Carter, talks about advocating depopulating the planet to the 500 million level. I can prove that. You can go find that report. That was already, Jimmy Carter was a long time ago, yeah? Look at this, Catherine Austin Fitts, that's a real person. I can prove she exists. Former Assistant Secretary under George Herbert Walker Bush. Oh look, she's also talking about depopulating the planet down to 500 million. Wow, that number keeps coming up a lot. Oh, what's this? Former U.S. Secretary of State Robert McNamara? What? He's also talking about taking down the population? Kissinger, Gorbachev, it goes on and on. They're not shy about it. Now, if all your world leaders are saying this, I think you should pay attention. Something going on. You can't say, oh, Damien made that up. These aren't my words. This isn't even the words of Lucian Mars. This is the words of your own leaders and your elite. And what's interesting is that just like the number of 500 million keeps coming up, or equivalent, the idea of the year 2025 keeps coming up. It shows up over and over. We talk about the idea that by 2025, an unprecedented threat would materialize. We talk about the U.S. Air Force Symposium. What this is, the quote is cut off, is that they said by 2025 they'll have total control over the weather, which means they can create famines and genocides at will. So why go to war with another country when you can just starve them out by altering the weather and destroying them? And already we have massive amounts of weather control in place. None of the weather is natural at this point. So over and over, we see these numbers occurring. 2025, that's right around the corner. That's like a year and a half from now. Some people say, well, why 2025? Is that some sort of magic occult number? No, that's just the number when probably all the underground bases are done. So they don't need you anymore. They needed your tax dollars to build these bases to pay for them. They're not paying for it themselves, right? Human beings no longer really need it. The Industrial Revolution is over. At this point, what are you going to do? They don't need billions of people on TikTok and Facebook hanging out all day. Yeah, you're in the way. Time to go. So what are these vectors of depopulation? Well, the first one is nuclear war. Before I left New York City, they were running public service ads on the subway and on the TV, what to do in case of a nuclear attack. Is there something you guys know about that I need to know about? What are you talking about? And then their response was, well, yeah, if there ever is a nuclear attack, just go into the center of whatever building you're in and you'll be okay. I'm like, I don't think that's how nuclear attacks work. But it's the city of New York, so I mean, anything's possible, right? We see in the Ukraine what's going on between Putin and the rest of the world. Putin, you can go right now on YouTube and find YouTube videos of Putin live in front of an audience explicitly saying that if NATO keeps encroaching or if the US gets involved anymore, he will start using nuclear weapons without hesitation. Wow, that's pretty impressive. I mean, he has children. You really think, like, if you're a parent, you have children, you think it's a good idea to start dropping nukes everywhere? Especially the amount of nukes we have. This is problematic. And now we have the situation in what's going on in Gaza, where again, we have things getting ready for another massive world war. We have examples where the United States thinks it's a cool idea to send all the military-industrial complex salespeople into Taiwan and to sail military vessels in the waters between China and Taiwan. Like, really? We need wars on every front? What's going on? It's like they're up to something. And one has to be very careful because, like I said, when nuclear war is being advertised so flagrantly, that's a problem. And you have to understand that all the world's leaders are under control. The same mechanism by which you have an unconscious mind, you can be possessed at any moment by a Nebu Gray or any other extraterrestrial. It's problematic. And this is an issue when you talk about channeling. When people, like a lot of people here, they channel. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not trying to make a comment about it. But you always have to ask yourself, well, what are you channeling? Who's talking to you? That's a big issue. If you don't know, you could be in a lot of problems because you can be led astray. For starters, at one point, there's a section we talked about in the last harvest where one of these channelers was channeling some angels of light helping humanity, whatever the story was. And then they slipped and made a comment that said that their source is the land of the dead. What did I tell you earlier about land of the dead? See, sometimes they make a mistake and they let something slip. So you have to be careful when it comes to things like this. Another vector of depopulation is famine. We already had the US Air Force saying that by 2025, they'll have total control over the weather and can produce famines and droughts at will. And here, when it comes to disease, here we have this guy, Eric Pianka, for example. He's a professor of biology at the University of Texas. And he made a speech, and he's enthusiastically advocating the elimination of 90% of the Earth's population with airborne Ebola. Wow, this is a guy, he got a standing ovation for this. You realize that? That's pretty crazy. So when you have these various vectors, it's very easy to take out most of the world's population.